Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, guys. Super excited for you to be here today. Welcome to yet another session of Get Corporate Ready Live. This is where we really get an opportunity to connect, to engage. Today's topic is one that I know a lot of you are super interested in, which is interview preparation. So today we're going to be sharing the best techniques and tips on how to prepare for your interviews, right? So in this particular episode, we're just going to be focusing on the preparation aspect. And what we mean by that is how do we start already developing the confidence ahead of our interview? We've been called for an interview, and now's the time where all of the nerves kind of start settling in. And ahead of this interview, what are some of the steps that you should know that you should be taking in order for you to be best prepared for it? And also something that's just going to help your nerves kind of settle in a little bit, right? So that is what we will be focusing on today. So I'm super excited to be chatting to you guys about this today. And obviously then we'll be fielding through questions that you guys may have. Just one point of caution or ask is that can the questions as they keep coming in the chat box at the bottom, can they be related to what has been said, right? So I'm going to take kind of intermittent breaks in between each of the different sections that I'm going to be speaking about. And I'd like to start answering questions that are related to what has been said, because there's going to be so much that's still going to come up, right? So don't try and anticipate what's coming up at the end. Let's deal with what we're dealing with at this point in time so that as I take breaks, I'm speaking to things that are relevant to the questions, that are relevant to the information that I've already spoken about. All right. Thank you, guys. I see some of you are still coming in. Let me know where you are tuning in from. Let me know in the chat box below. Say hi. Thank you for the thumbs up and the likes. Super excited to get into it today. Okay. So like I said, today we are building confidence for interviews. Okay. So that's going to be our main focus today. And I want to ensure that as you leave today, we are feeling like, okay, I know exactly what to do. As soon as I get that call back, I know exactly what to reference and where to go through, right? Good evening. Good evening. I see there's already requests before I start. So I see that there's going to be scheduled load shedding, so I won't be able to experience this live. Wanted to attend and tune in. Looking forward to Q&A. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. Sorry, guys. I know that some of you may not be able to connect due to load shedding, but I think this is going to be a great opportunity for those of you that are able to stay on and to connect, for you to just get some of your questions answered live. And for those of you that are only able to connect later, then that's absolutely fine. You are more than welcome to then tune in later and get some of the tips that we are going to be sharing and discussing today. Hopefully, some of the questions that come through are going to be part of some of the questions that you have wanted to ask as well, and hopefully it gets answered through that. Okay, so thank you so much. Thanks, Vianda, for joining from Cape Town. We've got Mohadi from Polokwane. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for coming through and joining us live in this particular session. Guys, we are getting confident through this particular live, right? That is the purpose of this live. How can I show up more confidently when I get called for an interview? Now, a lot of you guys, a lot of you have been following a lot of the work that we've been doing through Get Corporate Ready, and you know that preparation is important, right? But today we're going to unpack it just a layer deeper so that we really get an essence of why some of those particular aspects are important as you're preparing for your interview, okay? So we're going to go just a layer deeper than what we usually go through as we're talking about preparation for interviews. And that hopefully is something that's going to really help you guys, hone in on what some of those key skill sets are, okay? But thank you guys for joining through. We've got Cape Town, Durban. I know we've got Joburg, and we've got Polokwane on here live. Guys, welcome. For those of you that don't know me, my name is bohlale-p. I am the founder of Get Corporate Ready, and it's really a platform that is helping young professionals and mid-level professionals as well really just get into the swing of getting ready for the world of corporate, building the confidence necessary, and really getting that sense of being able to navigate corporate in a way that really helps you shine, that helps you put your best foot forward, and that really helps you land the dream jobs that you are wanting to land. Through today, we are going to be talking about interview preparation tips, right? And there's something really special at the end of the session that I'll be doing with you guys that is different from what I generally kind of teach when it comes to interview preparation. And I want to kind of go that route a little bit today, just to give you a taste of what is the one thing that really kind of binds everything together. I'm going to give you tips that maybe some of them you've heard, maybe some of them you haven't, but there's something at the end that I'm going to share with you that I think is really the glue that fits everything in together. Okay, so make sure that you're sticking through to the end of today's session to hear the tips, but also the bonus session at the end. Now, guys, for a lot of you, one of the main things, right, as you're starting to prepare for an interview, I want you to think about this particular aspect, right? So a lot of you, and I hope some of you are not doing this anymore, but a lot of you, when you are applying for jobs, you end up just preparing one CV and spreading it to all the jobs that you think are relevant, right? And so when jobs then come back to you, you ask yourself, oh, what company is this? When did I apply for this job, right? So there needs to be intention, guys. When you're applying for jobs, there has to be intention behind what job you're applying to and why you're applying to that particular job. So I want you, before you start making applications, be intentional about which job you're applying to. Be intentional about why you want to apply to that particular role. Make sure that the job that you're applying to is aligned to what it is you want to be doing, right? Is aligned to your skill sets. Because when you get called, it makes it that much easier for you to start preparing for that particular interview. Okay, so make sure that you're doing it with intention, guys. Don't just apply to every single opportunity that's out there. Apply for roles that you know are aligned to who you are and where it is you want to go in your career. Okay, so one of the first tips that I have to share around preparing for interviews, I think the key thing here, guys, that's going to be important is firstly being able to research the company. Why is this the biggest thing? A lot of times when you guys are applying for roles, you fail to research what the company is about because your focus at that point in time is just about getting a job, right? And a lot of you will see that when you actually don't research about the organization, there's so many interview questions that come up that you could be nailing only if you understood what the company was about, what it stood for, what their values are, what the culture is like, what are the products and services that the organization has, right? Who are their clients? What industry do they fall into? Who are their competitors? That type of information, guys, is a game changer when you are answering questions, because by answering questions and trying to sell yourself to the organization, you need to be able to demonstrate your knowledge of that organization so that when you are trying to say to them, this is why I'm the best person for this role, it ties into who they are and what it is they are looking for. Okay, so that is why researching the organization is absolutely critical. Okay, so I want you guys to think about that. Now, how do you go about researching the organization? You go onto their website, right? Go to their website, read up about them, read on the homepage, right? Read about their products and services, read about their career section. How is it? What is their ethos? What are the values that they hold dear? What is their philosophy around people, around employees, right? What are some of those things that make them who they are? What is the culture like there, right? And so it's important that you're using the website to get a lot of this solid information. One big mistake that people actually do when they end up going through for interviews is that they'll ask such a basic question that they could have read off the website. So at the end, when we ask you, what questions do you have? And you're asking, oh, okay, so what exactly is it that you guys do? That is the wrong question to be asking, because had you researched the organization, you wouldn't be asking that question. So the last question that generally gets asked in an interview is, do you have any questions for us? And that is a telltale sign, guys, as to whether you have prepared for the interview or not, based on the type of questions that you ask. Okay, so make sure that you're going through the company website. Make sure as well that you're following them on the social media platforms. Why is social media important? Well, a lot of what you find on social media is the most current information and news that the company shares about what it is they are doing, achievements that they have, big stories that are in the news about them, all those kinds of things that they are doing with their employees, things they are celebrating in the organization. Those are things that are going to tell you what's current in organizations, what's happening in the organization. So researching them on their social media platforms is really what's going to help you understand the more recent and more relevant information about what the company is doing. Why is this important? It's important because when you are then speaking to things that you've seen, that you've read, that are relevant, that are is doing, really shows that you've gone that extra mile to understand the organization, right? And you being able to then string in what value you are bringing that aligns to the organization, that aligns to what the organization does, that's going to add value to the organization. You can tell, you can speak to that confidently based on the knowledge you have of the organization. So guys, never underestimate the value of researching the organization, okay? Because what's the one question that may be asked of you in an interview that will tell whether you know the organization or not? A lot of times you're going to be asked the question, why do you want to work for us? And answering that question, the trick with answering that question is not that you are focusing on why you need the job, but that you are focusing on what you love about the organization, why you feel you fit into the organization, and how it is that you will be adding value to the organization. That's really what recruiters want to hear. That's really what organizations want to hear, right? So when we ask you, why should we hire you? You need to be telling us something compelling that shows that you understand the organization that you're interviewing for, and you understand how you are the perfect fit and how you'd be adding value. Okay, so that is why, guys, understanding and researching the organization is the very first tip that I can give you that's going to help you prepare well for the interview. Okay, understanding all of those things are going to be absolutely important. Now, the second thing that I think is going to be important for you to really, really understand is studying the job spec, right? The job description. Now, for those of you that have applied online, you obviously would have read the job description of what the title is, what the company is about, who it is they are looking for, what the responsibilities are, what the job requirements are, what qualifies you as a candidate, right? So understanding all of those things, guys, are going to help you better prepare yourself for the interview. Because by understanding what the job requirements are, you are then able to directly link yourself to what it is you know the organization is looking for. You are able to then link what your key strengths are that you know are absolutely critical for the role that you're applying for. So by understanding the job spec, you will get a sense of the type of person they're looking for, the type of culture they have in the organization, right? The type of skill set they are looking for, the relevant qualifications they are looking for, the type of strengths that the person needs to have for this particular role. You'll understand whether you are going to be leading a team, whether you're going to be a junior member in a team, right? You'll understand your role, where it fits in. What are some of the limitations of the role? Where are the opportunities for you to really grow and challenge yourself in the role? Understanding all of these things, guys, is going to give you such a confidence to be able to speak to who you are and what you are bringing to the table, right? Because one of the first things that I always like to tell some of my mentees, right, that are preparing themselves to go for interviews is get the job spec, get a highlighter. As you highlight the things you know you have done and you can do with your eyes closed, right? Highlight all of those things. Highlight the things that they mention as necessities and strengths and skill sets that you know you have, right? Because then when you are asked the question, What value do you think you can bring to the organization? Why should we hire you for this particular role? You now can think through the highlighted sections of the job description to explain to them the type of work experience that you have that's going to be relevant for what they are looking for, the skill set you have that's going to be relevant to what they're looking for, the strengths you have that is going to be relevant to what they are looking for, right? So being able to highlight almost embeds it in your memory. What are the things that I'm really good at? But the things that are not highlighted are then your growth opportunities, right? So then you'll be able to say the one thing that's really exciting about this particular role is the opportunity for me to grow in this particular area. I love that in this role, you give an opportunity for someone to do this particular activity or to collaborate across different teams within the organization, or to speak directly with key stakeholders, external stakeholders. So whatever it is you haven't had experience in is then your opportunity for growth, is then your opportunity for development in that particular role. So this is why really delving into the job description and understanding it, this is how it gives you a competitive edge when you are going for your interview, right? So understanding what they're looking for, the responsibilities, the requirements, the skill sets is going to help you when you answer questions like, why should we hire you? What value do you bring to the organization? What are your key strengths? What are your key development areas, right? So if you know that something is a strength in the job spec and is a skill set that's necessary, and then you go and mention it as a development area of yours or a weakness of yours, do you see how that now contradicts to what it is they are looking for? If I'm looking for someone and a strength that I need in this role is for you to do a lot of presentations to stakeholders, to shareholders, right? If that is a key strength that I need in this role, and then when I ask you the question, what is your key development area? What is your key weakness? And you tell me presenting or speaking in front of people as your fundamental weakness. If I need it as a strength and it's your weakness, do you see how already you're canceling out the opportunity for you to be the right person for that particular role, right? So understanding what is required is going to be crucial for you in how you answer questions, in the things that you emphasize, and what it is that you really explain as your key value add to the organization. So that is why that is the number 2 thing to do as you're preparing for interviews. Okay, guys, are there any questions at this point in time around researching the organization or studying the job spec? Because I think I want to ensure that you guys are understanding the need for doing this. I'm going to be looking, obviously, I'm looking at the chat as we are going, and definitely will be answering questions. I don't see anything in there at this point in time, and I'm assuming it's because everyone is aligned and understanding where I am with things, which means that I can then continue to move on. Are we comfortable? Thumbs up, like it, let me know in the chat. Okay, seems like everyone is comfortable. Okay, awesome. So, guys, the next thing that's going to be important for you as you're preparing for your interview is practicing common interview questions, right? This is crucial, and an emphasis on practicing, not knowing what they are, practicing them, right? Actually rehearsing it, actually going through the question and actually answering it, whether in front of the mirror, whether you're recording yourself, whether you're in front of a friend, a mom, family member, whatever it is. Practice common interview questions. Practice out loud so that you can hear yourself and what you are saying and where you stumble. Why is that important? Because then you know exactly what to refine, you know exactly what to enhance, you know exactly what you need to go back to the drawing board on, right? So practice common interview questions, guys. So there's typically around 10 different commonly asked interview questions. I've gone through a lot of them on my YouTube channel and explaining them in a little bit of depth. We will have a YouTube live where we are doing just the 10 commonly asked interview questions and going through them in depth so that you can just really understand what it is you're looking for. well, what it is the organization is looking for by asking that question. And then that's going to give you a better sense, right? But one of the top 5 ones, guys, that are always asked, and all of you know them and should know them. Firstly, tell me about yourself, right? That's a common introductory interview question. You need to know what you are saying for that question. You need to know what information that you are going to put in to your answer, what information you're leaving out, what information is relevant, what is not relevant, right? Those things are important for you to know. So tell me about yourself is a commonly asked question, and it's generally the icebreaker in an interview. So being able to start off strong in this particular way by really going about yourself in a way that is concise, that is informative, that is relevant, is going to help you just start your interview with some serious confidence, right? The next one that's generally, you always get asked something around your strengths, development areas. Development areas could be said as weaknesses. What are the things you need to work on, right? So understanding what your strengths are, understanding what your development areas are, is going to be important. It may not be asked as directly as that. Tell me what your strengths are, give of your development areas. It may be asked in a roundabout way, but pick up on what it is they are asking you to do, right? Another very important tip, guys, with regards to interviews is learn to listen, right? But we'll speak about that towards the end as well. Listen so you understand what the question is so that you are answering the question. Don't assume what you've heard. Okay. So understanding your strengths and weaknesses is another commonly asked interview question. Why should we hire you is the next one. Why are you the person that we should be choosing? We've interviewed many people for this particular role. Why you, right? What value do you bring? Why are you the candidate that we should be considering? That is a commonly asked interview question, and it's going to be so important for you to have gone through your job spec, to understand the organization, but to also understand yourself and how it is you're positioning yourself to be the ideal candidate for this particular role. Okay. And lastly, guys, you'll have a series of behavioral interview questions. This is going to be an interview. This is going to be a YouTube live all on its own, just dealing with behavioral interview questions. What are these? So behavioral interview questions are really just the types of questions that start with, can you give me an example of a time that you had to deal with conflict? What was the situation and what was the result, right? Can you tell me of a time that was the most challenging time in your life? What was it and how did you overcome it, right? So these are questions that require you to actually give a tangible example of something that you've gone through, what you had to do, what action you took, and what the result was, right? So there's a way that you answer these particular questions, guys. It's not just, oh, hypothetical, right? You don't just come up with a scenario. It has to be a scenario that you've actually gone through, right? But like I say, this is going to be a YouTube live on its own. We're going to go through the STAR method. We're going to go through a couple of examples. So make sure that you are just checking in on what the YouTube lives are going to be about, because that's going to be a big one, and that's really going to help you understand how to prepare for behavioral interview questions. Okay, so in this particular tip, guys, the idea here is practice these common interview questions. Practice it out loud, practice it in front of the mirror, practice it, record yourself so that you can go back and look at yourself and you can look at how you're articulating, whether you look pleasant, whether you're serious, whatever the case may be. Go back and listen, right? Ask for the feedback, because that's going to be important. The fourth thing that I think is important, preparing for interview questions that you can ask the interviewer. Like I said earlier, towards the end of any interview process, the interviewer or the recruiter will ask you, do you have any questions for us? Now, it's important that you have prepped at least 2 to 3 questions that you have to ask the interviewer. Why is this important? It's important because it shows a level of enthusiasm, right? It shows a level of interest. It shows that you have gone the extra mile to research about the organization. It shows that you are wanting to understand the role a bit deeper and a bit further. It shows that you really and genuinely are interested in being part of the team and being part of the organization and seeing where you fit into the broader organization. Okay, so learning to ensure that you have prepared 2 to 3 questions is going to be important. And like I said earlier, guys, do not ask basic interview questions. Do not ask the kind of questions that you could have found out on the job spec. Do not ask the kind of questions you could have found out on the website of the organization, right? Ask really thoughtful questions, questions that show that there's a level of complexity or there's a level of depth that you've gone through in your mind to really try and unpack and understand a little bit more about the organization. Okay, so your questions can be centered around something current that's happened, with regards to the organization or awards they've won, projects that they are working on. It can also relate to culture of the organization, right? Something you've read, something you want to unpack or understand a little bit deeper around the culture of the organization. It can relate to what are the unique challenges that this particular role, someone in this role would go through, right? Because it shows a level of interest into, okay, what am I going to have to face if I was to get this particular job, to get this particular role, right? So you can ask about unique challenges that are faced within this role. And you can also obviously ask what the next steps are in the hiring process so that you have an understanding of, are there going to be second round interviews? Are there going to be questions around, are there going to be interview steps that are more psychometric, right? That are group interviews, whatever the case may be. So asking what are the next steps that one can anticipate after this particular interview will give the recruiter an opportunity to then just take you through what the next steps are for the interview. Okay, so I hope that this really breaks it down a little bit more, guys, in terms of the importance of preparing for interview questions, but also the types of questions that you could be asking as well. Now, let me just jump onto the chat and see what questions have come through in the interim. So does this apply to vacation work? So Kwame, you've asked whether these kinds of questions apply. Well, it applies to any interview that you go through. So if you've applied for vacation work program and you get called for an interview, yes, all of this applies to any interview that you go for. This is the level of preparation that you need to have for any interview that you go into, right? Because with any interview, you are not guaranteed that you know exactly what it is they're going to be asking you. So preparing for all the various types of questions, behavioral interview questions, is going to allow for you to really present your best self. Most VAC programs don't generally interview people for the VAC program, but during the VAC program, you will go through mock interviews, or you'll have opportunities to interview directly, whether it's with HR, whether it's with senior people of the organization. You will have opportunities to be interviewed. So make sure that you've prepared in this way, because this is typically the types of questions that you'll get asked in any interview scenario. Other interview scenarios are group related or assessment center related. So if you are going for the types of interviews where there's a large group of you that are going in on a 1 day or 2 day selection day assessment center, then these questions will still come up, but you'll also be most likely be put into group interviews as well, group activities as well. And within that, they are looking for different types of skill sets, right? How you work in teams, how you communicate, how your interpersonal skills. So they'll be looking out for all of these things as they're observing you in those types of settings. But everything that I'm teaching today is absolutely fundamental for you when you go for a vacation program, or when you're just going for any type of interview relating to a role that you've applied to. Okay, so Kwame, I hope that answers your question. Okay, then the next question that I have, Oteng is saying, I have an interview, but the recruiter said that they don't have a job spec. They reached out on LinkedIn based on my profile, right? So Oteng, I think what's going to be important here, if they reach out to you based on your profile for a role, you need to be able to ask them, okay, what does the role entail? They need to have some level, even if it's a couple of pointers of what the role entails. You cannot go into an interview blank. You cannot just jump into an interview and wing it and see where things go, right? So it's a good thing that they saw and approached you through LinkedIn, because clearly you have something in your skill set, in your qualifications, in your profile on LinkedIn that really speaks to what it is they are looking for. So there's a lot about you as is that they love and that they want to see more of for a particular role. But even if they don't have a holistic job spec, they need to be able to tell you what is the role, what's the title of the role, what are some of the responsibilities of the role. Even if they give it to you in an email, these are the key things that we expect this person to do. This is the job title. This is the organization. It already gives you some level of basis for you to then work off of. Okay, so make sure they've given you some sense of the responsibilities of the role. And even if you ask it in an interview, you say, just so that I can prepare myself for the interview adequately, please can I get a sense of the job requirements and responsibilities and the title of the role as well. And then obviously based on whichever organization they've contacted you from, you'll then naturally go and do the research on the organization thereafter. Okay, so I hope that that helps you with Denye. I think it's important that you do ask for some indication on what the role is about. Okay, so that you can better prepare for that particular interview. Then I've got another one from Bokang. Bokang, if you have a friend or relative already working for the company you're interviewing for, is it wise to speak of some of their experience and asking questions about it without divulging their identity? Well, Bokang, I think it's absolutely an asset to have people that work in the organization. I do think that how you then share the information that you know, the inside information that you know, must kind of weave into questions that you already, that are being asked of you in terms of why do you want to work here? What is your understanding of our culture? Why are you the best fit here, right? So being able to speak to some of the things and insights that you have from your friend or relative that work at the organization is going to give you a little bit more of that edge, you know, because a lot of people generally will just have the information that is on the website or that they've seen on LinkedIn, and that's about it. But if you have insight information, then you need to be able to speak to some of that stuff in a way that really shows that you understand the organization. If it comes to a point where you say, yes, I do have a relative that works here, and one of the things that they've said they really love about the organization is ABC. And this is why I believe that I'm a great fit for this, because when you look at point A that they love about it, this is where my skill set actually starts to shine. This is where my experience comes in. So you can share that you know that kind of information, but how you share it needs to be relevant to then still promoting yourself, right? So yeah, I'm sure they'll probably ask you, who is it? Who works here, right? So that is something that you can decide whether you're sharing or not sharing. But there's nothing wrong with sharing, you know. But I think if there's things that your relative or friend experiences in the organization that's negative, rather don't bring that kind of thing up, because you want to ensure that you're maintaining a very positive conversation within your interview. And if you are going to ask them something that's quite a difficult question, a sensitive question that really directs to something they're doing incorrectly or something that you don't like about the organization, you need to be very careful about how you phrase that and how it is you are inquiring about it, right? So that's going to be an important feature of how you then use the information that you have from friends or relatives in your interview. Okay, so Wakang, I hope that answers your question. They're most likely going to ask you who it is that is there. So be ready for that question as well, okay? Because that's definitely going to come up. Happy. Let's keep going, guys. And just a reminder, guys, I'll be linking in the video below a document that I've prepared for you guys that speaks to these tips, right? So it's an interview preparation guide. There will be a link below for you to get this. So most of the things that I'm speaking about today are going to be in the guide. There are going to be extra things, like I said, towards the end that I speak about that are not in the guide. But if you want to get a 3-page document that's going to still detail some of the things that are going to be important that I'm speaking about, then make sure that you are downloading it in the link below. Okay, let's go through a few more pointers that I have around preparing for your interview. Now, guys, one of the big things when you prepare for interviews, right? How you arrive and how you show up is crucial. It's as important as how you've prepared for the actual interview, like what you're actually going to say, right? How you look, how you arrive, what time you arrive is all absolutely valid and important. So, one of the things is dressing to impress, right? Guys, I always say in interviews, rather be the overdressed person than be the one that's underdressed. It doesn't matter that you are maybe coming off of, if you're coming straight from campus and going for an interview, you don't pitch up at an interview like you just come from campus. You know your interview is coming up. You know at least 2 days ahead of time that you're going for an interview. So make sure that if it is something that is happening after campus, you've got a change of clothes. You've got a change of clothes that's going to help you look the part, right? Remember always that you are going and interviewing in a professional environment. So how you present yourself needs to be aligned to the organization that you are going to. So make sure, guys, that you are well dressed. Make sure that your clothes are ironed, that you look clean, that you are well groomed, right? It doesn't mean, ladies, you have to have a full face of makeup on, but look well groomed. Don't have your hair all over the place. Don't look like you've just tumbled out of something. You've just dug yourself out of a hole somewhere, right? Why is this important, how you look, guys? First impressions count. There's a lot of times that you'll go for an interview, and based on how you look, people have already made up their minds on whether you're the kind of person that will fit in, that will work well here, whether you're the kind of person that they want to work with, right? It's unfortunate, but it's the reality. It's the reality. So make sure that you dressed well, guys. Make sure that you dressed formally. Make sure as well that you are well groomed, right? From your hair, nails, ironed shirt, you look clean, smell clean, you just look ready to be there, right? Those things are important because first impressions count. The next thing that's important, arrive, guys, at least 15 minutes early for your interview. Why is this important? When you come rushed in an interview because you were stuck in traffic, because you know you were running late, now you're hyperventilating, now you had to call the recruiter to tell them you're running late, now you feel anxious about what does that mean if I arrive late? Will they still want to see me? Will it have a negative impression on me? What you already come into the room flustered, wondering what do people think? Trying to read people's faces. Is the recruiter upset? Now you're sweating, and now you're conscious about the fact that you're sweating. Guys, don't do that to yourself. As soon as you know your interview date and time, understand the route. If you're driving yourself there, how long is the drive from my place to that place? You don't figure it out an hour before. Oh, Ghana, where am I going? Let me put into GPS and see how far it is. No, as soon as you know, understand the distance it's going to take for you. If you're taking public transport, understand, do I take one taxi, two taxis? What do I need to go through to get there on time? Okay, so by getting there on time, it allows you 10, 15 minutes to just to breathe, to collect yourself, to compose yourself, right? It helps. It helps because how you start the interview sets the tone for how the interview ends up going. So make sure you're arriving there 15 minutes early. Don't arrive too early, guys. There's some people that arrive an hour and a half early. All that does is make the interviewers feel anxious about the fact that you've just been sitting there. Like now it's like, oh, what must I do with this person? Like it just puts pressure on the people that are coming to interview you. So if you are 2 hours early, pop into a coffee shop, and then go into the lobby and the reception area 15 minutes before. Okay. But if I'm alerted that this person is here and I'm like, they're only supposed to be here for 2 hours, I'm going to be thinking at the back of my head, sure, Ghana, the candidates here, they've been sitting here for a long time. So try not to arrive too early. Arrive 15 minutes before to allow yourself some time to breathe and to collect yourself. Never arrive late. When you arrive late, you arrive flustered, and then it just doesn't start your interview well. Okay, so that's why it's important, guys, that you plan for the trip and you plan to be there ahead of time. Okay, the other thing that I think is so crucial that some people tend to forget. Sometimes you write up your CV, now you're using it, and it's a year later from the time that you've written your CV, right? And now you don't quite remember the dates and times and which was the first organization I worked for. What year was it? I can't remember. You can't not remember stuff that you've put together. You need to understand your CV. You need to have gone through your CV and actually understand what you've put in your CV and what it is. What is the timelines? Okay, this was first. Oh, by the way, this ended in 2000. Then I did this for 2 years. Okay, what are my key achievements? Remember what your key achievements are, because it's important for you to be able to rattle that kind of thing off, right? So remembering the dates, your achievements, where you've worked, the timestamps is going to help you that when they ask you a question like, tell me about yourself, or tell me about relevant experience that you have, you're able to just run through that information. It's information about you guys. So you shouldn't be, I can't remember. And this actually happens, right? You might think, oh, bohlale, this is something basic. Yes, it's basic, but people still don't do it. You ask them about their CV or something they've put in their CV, and they'll be like, oh, I'm not sure. Is that in my CV? Oh, when did that get to my CV? I don't know. You can't ask me how it got into your CV, right? So make sure that you know and understand what you've put in your CV, in your motivation letter, in your cover letter, because those are the things that you need to just be able to speak off of. Remember, as recruiters, we are looking through that as a frame of reference to guide the conversation, right? So you need to be on top of your strengths, your skill sets. All of those things are going to be important, okay, for you to understand. Lastly, no, two more things that I want to speak about. Guys, coming in and building confidence has a lot more to do than just preparing for the interview, right? So I've given you all these tips up until now on how to prepare for the interview. But really, really, confidence has a lot to do with so many other aspects, right? Let's speak, for example, under confidence building. How else can I tell confidence in an interview? Your body language, right? Body language is so, so vital. Because what you guys don't realize is that there's so much that is said with your body language. You don't need to say it with your mouth, but your body language and your gestures suggest where you are on that, scale of 1 to 10 of confidence, right? And how do we then identify body language? We look at things like whether you have a firm handshake or not, right? That tells confidence. Whether you are smiling, looking pleasant, have a pleasant demeanor about you, that tells that you are someone that's confident. If you're someone that's coming in and you've got a serious demeanor and you look serious and you look stiff, remember, guys, it's all about energy at the end of the day, right? As a recruiter, if I come in and I'm greeting you in the lobby or the reception and you just look at me with like this stern look, already immediately I'm like, ooh, okay, let's see how this interview goes. Why should you create barriers for yourself before you even get into the interview, right? Smile, look pleasant, have a firm handshake, sit up straight when you're given the opportunity to then take a seat, right? Certain things like swinging in your chair is distracting, right? Don't do those kinds of things. So be careful and monitor how it is you behave, how it is you communicate how you are feeling with your body language, right? What's another key thing? Eye contact is important. So if you're speaking to me and I'm interviewing you, but as you answer me, you are looking down like this and you're answering me, tell me about yourself. And you are talking, yeah, so this is what I did and da da da. And also, the other day, da 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 and da da da. So yeah, guys, Learn to channel your energy positively towards the person you're speaking to, right? And it doesn't mean do a death stare the entire time as you are talking, right? But you're communicating with the person in front of you. Connect with them through ensuring that you've got great eye contact. Speak to them. They asked you a question, speak to them. Yes, you can look away from time to time and that kind of thing, but always come back to the person that you're speaking to, right? And this also, guys, when you are in a panel interview and maybe you've got 4 people in front of you, one person's asked you a question, you're more than welcome to speak to that person that's asked you a question. But as you are elaborating, connect up that's a panel as you finish off a particular point. But as you wrap the person that's asked you the question, right? Feel free to connect with people that are part of the panel. You don't have to exclusively speak to the person that's asked you the question. They should have at least 50% of the time and eye contact in a panel interview. Okay, so make sure, guys, that through things like smiling, eye contact, firm handshake, being professional, right? There's also a thing just around keeping and maintaining good personal space and personal distance. The person sitting right here, so you don't need to sit up close to them. Give them space, give yourself an opportunity to engage with them in that particular way, right? So make sure you're giving people their personal space as well. Sit across someone, not next to them in an interview, right? So be mindful of where it is that you sit. Showing enthusiasm as you speak is also important because it shows that despite what it is you are saying, how you are saying it shows that you're excited about being there. You're excited about the interview. So those are some of the things, guys, that are going to be important for you to be mindful of in terms of your body language. And that's why doing kind of an interview run through recording yourself gives you a sense of how it is you talk, how it is you come across, how it is you engage, whether you're smiling, right? That's going to give you a better sense of how it is you show up from a body language perspective. Okay. And make sure that you're keeping quite poised under pressure, guys. If you're feeling the heat, if you feel like you've stumbled on 1 or 2 questions and you're now trying to kind of come back from it, don't be flustered, right? Don't show that you are, okay, I'm feeling nervous. Okay, that's a difficult question. Can I get time? Can I just be poised under pressure? Okay, so make sure that you collect yourself. If you need time to think, give yourself 2-3 seconds, answer the question, right? If you feel like you fumbled on something, that's okay. You can come back to it later when they give you an opportunity to ask questions. Keep rolling with it. Make sure that with every single question that's being asked, you are approaching it from a point of positivity, from a point of this is a new question, I've got an opportunity to nail it, right? So guys, make sure that confidence is also just more than what you say, but it's also how you present yourself. One quick tip, if you're offered water before your interview, you may not feel thirsty then, but make sure that you always just take the water, right? Say, yes, please, I'd love a bottle of water. Because there comes time sometimes in the interview where you're feeling flustered, your throat feels dry, you're swallowing your saliva time and time again, that bottle of water is going to come handy. So if you are offered a bottle of water or something to drink, always have a glass of water, a bottle of water there, so that if you do need to kind of calm yourself by having a sip of water, then do that. At least it's there. Okay. Cool. So before I go to the one aspect that I said is something I don't generally share, but I think is important for us to be going through and is important for me to be sharing. Before I go into that, right, I think it's going to be important to just go through some of the questions to make sure that I've answered everyone's question. And then we'll go into the final session of building confidence. And that's going to be centered around attitude, intentions, positive affirmations. And I'm going to give you guys some affirmations that are going to be so key for you to just reiterate and say to yourself constantly before your interview that are also going to help boost your confidence for the interview. But before I get into that, let me go into some of the questions and then I'll jump straight into that as we are closing off the interview. I did also receive 2 questions from Instagram, the Q&A that I put up, and I will be answering that as well. Okay, cool. Bokang then came back again Yes, Wakang. And then in relation to interviews for articles of work, how important is it to know your schoolwork? Can you expect interview questions relating to content itself? Definitely, definitely. So, guys, if you're applying for graduate programs, vacation programs, articles, knowing and understanding some of the technical aspects of the work is going to be important. It doesn't mean now sit up all night reading through all of your textbooks, right? But brush up on the key concepts, brush up on the key aspects of each of the different kind of courses that you've done, right? So make sure that you've brushed up on some of your technical aspects. A lot of times when you get asked technical questions, it won't just be straightforward, right? Sometimes it may be, but a lot of times it's going to be encompassed in a question that has to do with the scenario. Because what we want to see a lot of times as organizations and recruiters is the fact that you are able to apply the knowledge you have, not that you can just regurgitate the knowledge. Are you able to apply the knowledge that you have in answering the question? So they'll give you a scenario and say, this is what's happening. This is who you are in the scenario. These are the factors that impact it. This is the key question. How would you solve it? Right? So what that does is that it draws in a lot of different aspects of your knowledge, and you need to be able to integrate different pieces of knowledge in solving the question. So sitting up all night and unpacking one particular aspect of your course, that may not come up, right? So you never know what's going to come up. It's important for you to have a general sense of most of the different concepts of the different courses that you have, right? But know when it's going to be relevant to use that. So technical questions are going to be there. They are going to be important. And that's why it's important, firstly, that you understand and have a sense of what the company is looking for. If you don't have a job spec, you won't know what technical aspects are going to be important. You won't know what key skill sets are going to be important for that role. So it's important that you brush up on that ahead of time, but maintain your composure through it and just think practically. Think practically, right? Once you start knowing exactly the word that describes that particular thing and you don't get it, now you start fumbling. And now the whole question goes to waste because you're looking for that particular word. Think practically and explain it practically as well. Okay, so prepare for interview for technical questions as well, because those definitely are going to come up. And in any industry that you're in, right? Whether you're in HR and marketing, understand the basic concepts of the profession that you're in, because you are going to get asked questions more practical, and some of those come out in the behavioral questions that get asked as well. So make sure that you brush up on technical. That's going to be important. So Bokang, I hope that that answers your question. Ame, is it possible to make a short live that talks about to nail vacation work? Related information like what needs to be in motivational letters or cover letters, basically how to stand out. So how to stand out in a vacation program. Yeah, I could do that. I know a lot of the vacation programs typically start around June-ish, July. So ahead of that, definitely I could go through a live that takes you through some VAC concepts and how it is that you can stand out in VAC. Okay. Kanyisile, do you bring anything with you to the interview? Well, if you've prepared interview questions and you have it in a notebook, bring your notebook through so that if they give you an opportunity to ask, then you can take your notebook out and actually answer interview questions. If you've made a manual application with your CV and that kind of thing, and it's not through an applicant tracking system, then bring a recent copy of your CV, your cover letter, and maybe some of like the certifications that you may have, right? It's not common. Like a lot of people that I've interviewed, and I've interviewed thousands of people, a lot of them will bring all of that stuff, but I won't ask for it because you've already submitted it, right, in the actual interview. But sometimes it comes in handy because one or two people may decide to join the interview, and if you've got extra copies and they don't have copies, then it just helps facilitate the process a bit more. So you can bring copies of your CV. It's not a must, but you can bring copies of your CV. bring a notebook as well that has the questions that you have. And also if there's something that comes up, after your interview, you can quickly jot it down if you're preparing for then the second round of interviews, which is going to be important. And that's one of the questions that actually came up in the Instagram Q&A was, are second interviews more hectic, right? Like, do you have to prepare even more for second interviews? And I think it should be easier in the second interview, but a little bit more complex. So easier in the sense that if you've been called for a second interview, it means the first one went well, right? So it should give you that little level of confidence to say, okay, it went well. How do I then brush up on some of the things that they asked me about that I thought I didn't answer too well? It gives you an opportunity to do that. Also, there's going to be different stakeholders, so you may need to repeat yourself again, but now you've had practice through round one of interviews. And then lastly, why I think it's going to be easier in the second round is that you have a sense of the people, the place, the culture. You've had some time now to think through what value add you actually think you're going to bring, because now you have a better sense of the organization, the people, the job as well. So I think how you're able to articulate yourself second time round actually stands you in better stead. So you should actually go in a little bit more confident, even though what changes is the stakeholders. It means that they're bringing in more senior people into the interview to then have that second round of interview. Okay, so don't worry too much about titles of the people that are coming in. It's important that you know them, that you understand who they are, where they fit into the organization. But it's also important to understand that you need to come in with a level of confidence that says, I've been here, it's my second time around. I asked all the important questions before, they were answered, and they've now helped me also construct better positioning of myself for this particular interview. Okay, so that's where second interviews come in. Guys, you could also get psychometric tests as well as part of the interview process. It's not something you can prepare for in terms of the technical aspect of the psychometric assessment. How you can prepare is ensure that you have slept well, is ensure that you are getting there clear-minded. If you're given an opportunity to either come morning or afternoon for psychometrics, always choose morning where your mind is still fresh, where you're still sharp, right? So make sure that you're choosing the morning, make sure that you're well rested, and that there's nothing that's going to distract you during the time you're doing psychometrics for you to be able to answer the questions adequately. Okay, so I hope that helps, Bokang, and I hope that Kwame, that also answers your questions a little bit more as well. And Kanyisile, sorry, that was actually your question around, do you bring anything to the interview? Okay, so then there's one more before I go into the last segment. Should I shake everyone's hand when I enter the interview room? Should you shake everyone's hand? It's not necessary. It's okay if you do. But I do think, generally you'll walk in with the panel, but there are times obviously that you find that everyone is there and they are seated. So you're more than welcome to come in and greet everyone without going one by one and shaking everyone's hands, right? So as you come in, and if you find there are people in the room, say, good day, everyone. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. May I take a seat, right? Then you sit down and you start with your interview. So it's not negative brownie points if you don't shake people's hands. But if you do want to go about and greet everyone, that's absolutely okay as well. So that's really subjective and up to you. There's no right or wrong answer for that. Okay. Guys, thank you so much for staying on till the end of this. One final note that I think is so, so important, and some affirmations that I think are going to be so helpful for you to practice prior to going for your interview. Understand this main thing. Your attitude towards your interviews has a lot to do with whether you're going to nail your interview or not. So you can be someone that prepares and does everything that I've told you to do in this particular live. But if you are going in with a mindset of feeling like, getting a job is so hard, and, I might not even get this job. I don't think I'm qualified for this role, but let's see, right? Understanding that when you say that already, you're already priming yourself to fail. You're already priming yourself for it not going well, right? So making sure that your attitude and your mindset ahead of your interview is positive and you're affirming positive things about yourself, about your capabilities, makes a massive difference. Another thing is that if you are applying for jobs and you are wanting to run from your current role, right? So if you're applying from a point of, hey, I just want to get out of this place that I'm in, and so you apply and you go into the interview still with that same energy of desperation for the job, because you are running away from the role that you are in or the toxic environment that you're in. Trust me when I say that we can tell your energy when you are in an interview and when you're articulating yourself, when you're coming in with a, I'm running away from something. I can tell. Interviewers can tell when there's desperation. And when you come up being desperate for a role, one of my main questions is, what are you running from? Why are you running from it? What are you doing or not doing that's causing you to want to run from the situation? Let me give you a practical example. There was a time in my first role that I went into. I had the best first year and then it just tanked, right? And I came back from 2 weeks worth of sick leave. I came back and I was desperate to get out, right? Because I just felt like this is not the environment for me. The work ethic that they require of me, the amount of hours that I put in, no one appreciates me. I was in that negative mindset and negative space. When I started applying for jobs, based on paper, people were like, great, let's see you. When you go into the interview, when I went into the interview, trust me, I was like, anything, like, give me anything. Yes, I'll do it. I'm keen to get out. Why do you want to leave your current job? No, I don't think it's a great space for me. And, I just think mentally I need a fresh start. That you start answering like that. Why? Because you're applying because you're running. So you don't realize how you start answering the question. And because you start saying those kinds of words, interviewers then are like, hey, red flag, right? She's either running away because there's a lot of pressure, which means she doesn't want to deal with pressure. We've got pressure here in our organization. This role is highly pressurized, right? And so if you come across like you are running and you are desperate to jump into something, you don't articulate yourself as, I am the best candidate for this role. Instead, you articulate yourself as, I need this role because I just need a break. And no organization wants to give you a role because you need a break, because they don't want you to come here to have a break. They want you to come here to bring the best version of yourself and to add value to the organization. So be mindful, guys. If you're wanting to get out of a toxic environment, make sure that you spend time in your energy. Make sure you spend time being positive, being grateful for the fact that you still have a role, being grateful for the fact that you can come into a place that's paying you, it's giving you money, you're able to still keep a roof over your head, you're able to still drive and have petrol in your car. You may not love the organization or the environment that you're in, but sure, make sure that you're changing your mindset around being grateful. So I went for probably 3 or 4 different interviews and didn't get any of them. And I was qualified for the role. Then I started changing my mindset and started telling myself, actually, let's be grateful for the role that I'm in. Yes, I had a terrible time. Yes, I was booked off for 2 weeks of sick leave. Now I'm back in the environment. Yes, I find it stressful. But what do I love about being here, right? How can I continue adding value? How can I put myself in a very positive state? Then when interviews started coming in, when I was in that state, then I started nailing, and it was an issue of which job do I choose? I got 2 offers, right? So make sure that you are checking in on your energy all the time, guys, because it makes such a massive difference. You may not tell the difference yourself, but an interviewer is instantly able to tell whether you are running from something or whether you're actually there to positively add value to the organization. And once again, don't make any job bigger than you, right? The fact, guys, that you got called for an interview means there's so many boxes that you tick. So you need to go into an interview already feeling confident that you got called for the interview. Therefore, you qualify for that interview. You've got everything on merit for the interview. So don't ever go into an interview feeling like, I don't think I can do this job. This job is too big for me. Maybe I should get a job that is two layers down so that I can feel more comfortable in my space. No, no, no. Trust that you got called for the interview for a reason, and therefore you pitch up with that level of inner confidence in yourself to say, I qualify for this particular role. In closing, guys, one thing that I want to maybe share with you that's going to be important is that all these tips that I've given you are crucial in helping you build your confidence for the interview, but it's not always about getting the job. Right? And I know this sounds very contradictory to why you should prepare in this way for the interview, right? Because we want to land the job. But one thing you need to always remember, the aim is not always about getting the job, but it is more about making a lasting impression. When I interviewed for Bowman's the first time around, I interviewed for a role very different to what I ended up doing, right? Later on. So I interviewed first, the role wasn't matched to who it is, well, wasn't matched to what it is I wanted to do at the time, right? And so the role didn't align with who I was at the time. They felt it was too junior for me. They felt that I'd get bored in the role, whatever the case may be. So I left the interview not getting the role. But 2 years later, when I then applied to be the head of grad for the organization, they remembered me from 2 years back. Do you see how it's more important that you leave a good lasting impression more than it is about landing that initial role? Because who knows, you may get another opportunity later on for a different role in the same organization. And when you do, people need to remember you positively. So already by the time I went back for a different role 2 years later, it was like, oh, I remember you. Didn't we interview 2 years ago? Weren't you that person that came in and you were so good for the role, but we felt it was too junior for you? Oh, I'm so excited it's you. You know, when I saw your name on the CV, I thought, no, man, this name sounds familiar, you know? So already the interview started on a high of, oh, I know you. I remember you. This is so great that you've come back. And already now how I'm introduced to the other stakeholders and the other panel members, oh, this is Bohlale. We actually interviewed her 2 years ago for this role and and, you know, we're so excited about her. Already now the whole thing is starting on a positive note, right? We know you, we loved you, we remember you, we're so excited that you are back. So when you don't land a particular role, ask yourself, did I leave the best impression? Because you never know where your paths are going to cross again with the same people that interviewed you, or maybe with the same organization at a later stage for a better opportunity, right? So always remember that, guys. If you don't get a role, did I leave a lasting impression? That's my number one thing. Every time I go for an interview, I want people to remember me. I may not get the role, but I want you to remember me, right? And so that's why I prep, and that's why I go through all the steps I've told you, because making a lasting impression is more important than getting the job at that point in time, because you never know what comes up later. Okay, guys, in closing, I really hope that this was useful, helpful for you guys. I want you guys to jot down the following positive affirmations that I want you to say to yourself ahead of your interview, right? The day before, 2 days before, as you're preparing for the interview. These are 5 things that I think are so important for you to just affirm about yourself. And this is what's going to help you get into a positive mindset. This is what's going to help you present a very positive aura and demeanor when you get there and feel that much more confident about yourself. The first one is, I am well prepared for this interview and my qualifications align perfectly for this role. I am well prepared for this interview and my qualifications align perfectly for this role, right? Keep telling yourself, I'm well prepared for the interview. This is after preparing, guys. Well prepared for the interview. My qualifications align perfectly for this role. Next one. I am confident. I am calm. I am capable. I am confident. I am calm. I am capable. Right? Why is this important? It changes your aura from being frantic from wondering whether you're the right person from the role, wondering whether you're going to say the right thing or not. Tell yourself always, I'm confident, I'm calm, I'm capable, right? The next thing, I am a valuable candidate with unique strengths and talents that I bring to the table, right? I'm a valuable candidate. I have unique strengths and talents that I bring to the table. So many times people will second guess themselves. They go into imposter syndrome before they go for interviews. And the imposter syndrome is talking themselves out of why they're not the right person for the role, why they think they're not going to make it, and why they think there's better candidates out there. They tell themselves that, right? That's what imposter syndrome does. You need to change that. You need to change that mindset and start talking to yourself positively, because how you show up is going to be so different to you believing that you are not capable for the role, that you're not confident for the role, that you have nothing to add, that you have no value to add to the organization, right? So start telling yourself, I'm a valuable candidate with unique strengths and talents that I bring to the table. Fourth one, I trust my ability to articulate my thoughts clearly and concisely. I trust my ability to articulate my thoughts clearly and concisely. Too many people go in and they already know that they are going to, I struggle to articulate myself, and sometimes I take long to explain something and I don't know where to start and I don't know. The more they tell themselves that over and over again, the more they fumble and fumble and fumble. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Start changing what you tell yourself so that you present yourself. Let that become the self-fulfilling prophecy, that you articulated yourself clearly, concisely, right? Change the narrative, change what it is you say to yourself. And lastly, I am deserving of this opportunity, and I will showcase my best self during the interview. I am deserving of this opportunity, and I will showcase my best self in this interview. All you need to do, guys, is keep telling yourself this. You don't have to believe it, but you need to tell it to yourself, right? Because so many times we tell ourselves all the negatives, all the things that could go wrong, and somehow we believe that, right? So tell yourself the narrative that you want to be presenting. If you want to present yourself as someone that is flustered, that talks too much, that never knows, that doesn't deserve, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you make a mess of your interview. But if you tell yourself that you're well prepared, you're confident, calm, and capable, you're a valuable candidate with unique strengths and talents that you bring to the table, you trust your ability to articulate your thoughts clearly and concisely, and also that you are deserving of this opportunity and that you will showcase your best self for the interview. Tell yourself that enough, and I promise you, the aura that you bring to the table is one of someone that is confident, someone that is self-assured, and someone that knows that they are deserving and they've got value to bring to the organization. Okay? So that's the one thing that I wanted to share this time around, because I definitely believe that too often we spend too much time in negative self-talk, and it doesn't help you for your interview, doesn't help you with confidence building in your interview. So yes, the checklist that I gave you, that I also said you can download below in this video, is great, and it's great ways to prepare yourself. But how you show up has everything to do with who you believe yourself to be and whether you believe you're deserving of the opportunity. So please make sure that you are saying those affirmations to yourself whilst you're preparing, after you prepare, as you're driving to the interview, and go in with a level of confidence that whether you get the job or not, you've left a positive, lasting impression. So guys, I hope that that has been helpful for you. I hope that this is something that's been of value to you. Please, 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 there's no point being on this live for a whole hour with me and you're not going to put it into practice, right? So make sure that as you start preparing for your interviews, for your VAC programs, for any sort of interview process, make sure that you put these into practice and make sure that you are speaking life positivity to yourself, because it will show in how you show up. Okay. Thank you guys for the time. I see that Arnold, you were saying something and you retracted it. Let's see. Ndombi, still applicable? Is your video on the CA training program still applicable? Well, maybe, maybe not. As you know, that I don't run the CA program anymore for Bowman's. So you may have to ask the people that are now doing it, right? But I think a lot of what I shared there wasn't anything overly technical and has everything to do with the same type of advice that I'm sharing now. There may be one or two things that have been tweaked before that. But yeah, at some point I'll do interviews for my podcast with all of these various recruiters, right? And get real life relevant information about what it is you need to do to prepare. But I don't think a lot has changed from that time. Okay. Cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the time. And please, like I said, ensure that you are downloading the link below, which is a guide that's going to take you through just some of the key preparation tips that we've spoken about today. But also make sure you're affirming yourself positively all the time, and bringing the right level of attitude and energy into the interview so that you can land your dream job. Hope that you guys have a great evening. Thank you so much for spending time with me live, and we'll definitely see you soon. Cheers, guys.